If you're new here, welcome. I'm Preston, a licensed broker and land investor, hundreds of deals under my belt. On this channel, I'm breaking down the exact systems, the exact strategies, and all the lessons I've learned so you can hit your first million in your land business faster. So let's dive right into it. And, before we get started, I'm not a fucking self-development land guru that's just here to teach you a whole bunch of bullshit. I'm not trying to sell a fucking course, right? These are just the steps that I wish and the lessons that I wish somebody had taught me. And in the beginning of my journey, it was impossible for me to find. None of the gurus actually taught you the minute details that I needed to run a successful business. So I just thought that was important to disclaim. What the fuck? Hope you guys enjoy the video. All right, so most people pick their first market wrong. I know I did. So whether using direct mail or some other form of marketing channel, the issue that most people run into is where they mail to, and not what they mailed. So let me repeat that. It's where they mail to and not what they mail. So let's say we have a seller, right? Let's say the seller name is Linda. She is a 45-year-old seller. So let's say Linda, she inherited 12 acres of property in a random state that she cares nothing about. She's paying property taxes. She has no emotion, no relation to the land, and she wants a fair cash offer for the property. So Linda she's not hard to find, right? She's not hard to find, but she is waiting for you to mail the right county. And I apologize for this drawing. I know it's horrible, but she's just waiting for you to mail the right county. So if you pick the wrong market, it's not just your mailer that fails. It's that Linda never gets found. You never get a chance to present your offer, or keep paying taxes on the land that she doesn't want because that one piece of mail that couldn't reach her went to the wrong county instead. And there's one part of this that most land investors get completely backwards. All right, so let's jump right into it. So how I would pick a market for my first mailer, the exact strategy I use to hit $1 million flipping land from scratch. So let's start with part one, the think. So if you haven't watched any of our videos before, we normally follow the same type of framework. We like to think about what we're going to send and see how our marketing efforts are going to be constructed. Then we like to build, right? We like to set up how we're going to do it, and then execute is where the money is made. That's where we're actually going out and doing it. We're speaking to the sellers, and we're bringing home the money for our families. So let's jump right into it. So step one, the 1 to 3 hour rule. Stay in the path of growth, right? So we want to be 1 to 3 hours from a major metropolitan area. So for this example, I chose Georgia, and this is something that we actually do a lot of times. This is like one of the maps that we use here. So the major metropolitan areas are, let's see what the major metropolitan areas are. The most densely populated areas within Georgia. Let's check that out. All right, so we see here that the major counties in population, we have Fulton County. Now, when we are creating our mailer, right, the first thing I like to do is I would want to pretty much just draw a line, right? So we're going to draw a line around all of the major counties right here, 1 to 3 hours out. So 1 to 3 hours from the major metropolitan area right here. All right. So we also want to make sure that it's close enough that buyers will drive to it, right? We don't want completely rural land to where there's no infrastructure at all around the properties, right? At that point, there's a buyer for that as well, but we want to make sure that we are getting in and out of our deals extremely fast, or really fast for the most part. So we're just looking for attractive properties and attractive land. And then part three is far enough that prices are still reasonable, right? So when we are buying within this area right here, a lot of these are infill lots. They're priced accordingly. I guess that's the best way to describe it, right? So in here, you may look at around 40,000 an acre, whereas an hour, 2 or 3 hours out, you can probably get close to maybe 10,000 an acre or 11,000 an acre. Right. So not only are we be able to purchase more land, depending on what strategy we take. Right. So let's say for wholesaling, this is something that we'll discuss a bit later. Depending on what our strategy is, we typically have a lot more opportunity within that 1 to 3 hour range. So that's really important. That's something that we really need to take note of. So one thing that we also, and we can move to step 2, and one of the things that we also need to keep in mind is why this range works, right? Because we are buying ahead of the growth. We are anticipating the growth, right? So typically the way it works is if we have a major metropolitan area or a densely populated area, more than likely once, this becomes, let's say this is a city. So once this becomes a major city, once this becomes too expensive for the average buyer, they are looking to find land on the outskirts. And all of this is 1 to 3 hours all around this area. So that's something to keep in mind. And these counties are still under the radar, right? So when we say that they're under the radar, is that more than likely you're not going to have a lot of competition in this area. And we can be a lot more creative in the way that we approach the strategy, depending on the land that we get under contract. And typically the land is priced well below what it's actually worth. Our normal offers are anywhere from 40 or maybe 30 to maybe 60%, 60 cents on the dollar. But even then, we are able to, let's say, if we were going to wholesale, that's one strategy. If we want to force appreciation, we can subdivide, we can entitle, we can build and entitle. So a lot of different strategies. And because we are kind of targeting land outside of a major city, the amount of land that we can actually acquire allows us to get a bit more creative with our strategy, if that makes sense. Step 3. So we need to first pick our market that supports our strategy, but we also need to know our exit before we mail as well. So, we typically have 3 different buckets, right? Or 3 different categories, right? So the first category is going to be our fast money. So with fast money, this typically falls into like wholesaling. And this also typically for me is referrals, right? And this is actually one of the reasons why I got my broker license. I haven't sold one property as a real estate agent, but properties that are outside of our that are typically outside of our niche, if you will, or out of the state, or properties that we typically buy. And if that seller wants market value for the property, which they're well within the right to ask for, we typically refer a lot of these properties out. So for example, and I might go off on a tangent here, but there was a few properties in which the seller wanted 500,000, they wanted like 1.2 for these properties. And even though we focus on land, even homes that come through our pipeline, we are able to refer those out because we're not really in the market to purchase properties at market value unless we are able to force appreciation on these. So like unless we're able to subdivide them or kind of, provide some type of value to the property to where we can sell it at a higher price point. This is where referrals for us is really, really important because we can just send that out and, that lead is being optimized in some way. So it's not just, something, and under normal circumstances, these were actually leads that we would normally pass up on. So if we can get, let's say, a $50,000 referral check or a $20,000, $10,000 referral check without doing any additional work, we are happy to refer these out all the time. So that would be a fast strategy. And then, let's say a mid tier would be possibly like a land flip. This is similar to like a buy and hold. This is pretty much the same thing. But then we also have, to where we can get this property, or we could purchase the property, which is kind of similar to buy and hold. But we can purchase and then sell the note. Right, so we can purchase the property, get it under contract, find a buyer for the property, do the credit checks and make sure they're a viable and credit worthy buyer, if you will, and then sell the note at closing, typically from anywhere from 60 to 80% on the dollar. So that's another strategy as well. And then our other strategy is a bit slow. And the reason why we say this is a slower strategy is this normally takes anywhere from 12 to 18 months and sometimes even longer. But what this looks like is, and also before I go here, another one for here would be to list a property. So if it's within North Carolina, Virginia, South Carolina, a lot of times our staff can list a property as well. So that's another option as well. So if we are melding these properties or these sellers, they say, hey, you know what, I want a fair market value, I want market value, then we have an option. So to do so and kind of, find a buyer for the property. And then slow would be we either do like some type of entitlement for the property. We do what we call entitlement plus, which is pretty much we are entitling the property and building on the property. And by building, we mean doing pretty much all the vertical work. Or all the horizontal work, excuse me. And then we can also do a subdivide as well. So subdivide is more like mid-slow, but I'll put it in the slow category. So with slow, we're about 12 to 18 months. Mid, I would say, is about 3 to 6 months. And then with fast, I would say 0 to 3 months. And with fast, this is pretty much, a lot of times this covers our operating expenses. Mid is where we make the majority of our money. And then slow is where we make the generational wealth. So move on to step 4. So with step 4, we don't want to overthink the county. Any market within range can work. There's great properties everywhere. And this actually goes into not necessarily you need to have like a growth mindset. Sometimes if you're within the community, you may hear, this county doesn't work, or this county, deals can be found everywhere. It's limitless. It's unlimited, right? So granted, you target the correct market within that range we just talked about. You can still make a lot of money here, right? So we're not looking for the perfect county, right? We are just looking for a county within that specific range. You're just looking for a workable county, a county that you can consistently mail. And we want to pick one and start mailing. That's it. Just pick a county and start mailing. Get the mail into the mailbox. Make sure you send it off. Or if you have a printing company, make sure they send it off. And just get it going. Let's go into step 5. So draw your radius. So we pretty much cover this in step 2, where we're starting with the mapping out the data. So we picked our major metro. We drew 1 to 3 hour ring around it. And then we list every county inside that ring, and we just start mailing. And then from there, what you can also do, another filtering process is you can also start to look at realtor.com. And I do apologize for my writing. I know it's horrible. Or Zillow. And make sure you're looking at the sold comps, right? And what these sold comps are going to allow us to do is to kind of get a feel for what's moving within any county, what's for sale, and you can kind of see what's for sale and see what's being sold. If it's sitting on the market for quite some time, we know that, okay, that may be overpriced. I may need to price my mailer, my property at this specific price point if I wanted to get it sold within that 0 to 3 month time frame that we talked about right here, or within the 3 to 6. If it's a property to where they may want a bit more, but we know we can do some type of value add to the property, then we can hold on for a little bit longer. But the reason I'm saying that is because we want to make sure that the county can support that as well. So when you're kind of factoring in, a lot of these different strategies, and you're moving from a land flipper into a land solutions company, then that's where all these strategies come into play, and you pretty much have an exit for anybody. You understand what I'm saying? You become a lot more lethal. So step 6. So narrow the county first, right? We want to narrow the county first. And this is really important because we don't want to mail 7 different counties one time. We want to mail that one county 7 times. So we want to look for the available land inventory, as I just mentioned in part 5. We want to check that the county data is accessible. So this is just pretty much the building portal. This may be like the GIS system, the environmental health department, record of deeds. The county is really your best friend and things like this. And we want you to choose one county, not 5. This is really important. And this is a mistake that I actually made. So one of the mistakes that I actually made was that I would spread our mails a bit thin, to where I would mail a lot of counties instead of focusing on 1 or 2 counties and doing multiple mailings to that county. And to be honest with you, it takes quite some time, a few touch points for the seller to even become comfortable with you. So, if you can mail these counties several different times, it really helps out. And most importantly, right, this is, if I could, put some exclamation points around this, I would. The market only matters if you mail it. It only matters if you mail it. Pull your list from the county, send to one market at a time, track what comes back and adjust. I cannot tell you how important this is. So let's picture Linda again, right? 45-year-old Linda. More than likely, she's not responding the first time you mail about her property. More than likely, she's not responding the second time you mail to her property. Once she gets to that third or fourth time and she becomes kind of acquainted and comfortable with your marketing offer, then that's when she will respond. Remember, Linda is still waiting to pay those taxes, right? And we would not even be able to reach her if we overthink which county to mail. And remember, the radius 1 to 3 hours out does the majority of work for you. Pick a workable county, not a perfect one. Send the mail, wait for the responses, and that's the best way to learn the market and make real money within the land investing space. So if you have any questions, drop it off in the comments. Until next time, you guys take it easy. Peace.